In the cold, unyielding vastness of the galaxy, the most dangerous predators rule. Their civilizations have forged their empires on the bones of weaker species, their dominance unquestioned. But when a new planet is discovered, an insignificant blue world called Earth, everything changes. The Galactic Council, a coalition of the galaxy's apex predators, sees this planet as nothing more than a curiosity, a place filled with soft, fragile bipeds. But the readings are perplexing. The weather is deadly, the creatures are monstrous, and the atmosphere, toxic. This should have been an easy conquest. But as the first diplomatic fleet approaches, they are about to discover that Earth holds a secret they never expected. The so-called humans, weak, defenseless, and unprepared, are about to show the galaxy just what it means to survive against all odds. And the Deathworlders? They will soon learn that the true apex predator might not be who they thought it was. When apex predators discover Earth, the crystalline spires of Nexus Station stretched toward the void like frozen lightning, their surfaces pulsing with the bioluminescent communications of 5 civilizations that had ruled the galaxy for over 1,000 years. In the central chamber, where decisions that affected trillions of lives were made, the Council of Apex Predators convened for what would become the most significant meeting in galactic history. High Commander Vextar of the Zephyrian Empire stood at the head of the obsidian table, his crystalline form refracting the chamber's pale light into dancing rainbows. His species had evolved from living crystal formations on a world where survival meant becoming harder than diamond and more flexible than water. The Zephyrians had conquered through patience and precision, turning entire star systems into extensions of their crystalline network. To his right lounged Warchief Brutok, whose massive frame dwarfed even the reinforced chair designed for his kind. The Mauler stood nearly 12 feet tall, his natural bone armor plates gleaming like polished marble. Scars covered every visible surface of his hide, each one a trophy from battles that had claimed entire civilizations. The Maulers had built their empire on the simple principle that the strongest should rule, and none had ever proven stronger than their bone-crushing fists and razor-sharp claws. Across from Brutok, the Shadowmere representative remained barely visible even in the chamber's bright light. Ambassador Silk was more concept than creature, her form shifting between solid matter and living darkness. The Shadowmere had mastered stealth and assassination, conquering worlds by eliminating their leaders before anyone knew war had begun. Their empire expanded in whispers and shadows, leaving behind puppet governments that served their hidden masters. The 4th member of the council represented the Hive Collective, a species that had transcended individual consciousness to become a perfect organism of shared thought. Director Prime's insectoid form clicked and chittered as thousands of minds spoke through her mandibles. The collective had overwhelmed their enemies through sheer numbers and perfect coordination, turning every battle into a mathematical certainty. The final seat belonged to Fleet Marshal Koreth of the Void Hunters, aquatic beings who had learned to survive in the crushing depths of their homeworld's methane oceans. His environmental suit contained the high-pressure atmosphere he needed to survive, while his sonar-based senses could detect deception in the heartbeat patterns of other species. The Void Hunters controlled space itself, their fleets moving through dimensions that other species couldn't even perceive. These 5 civilizations had divided the galaxy between them through a careful balance of power and mutual respect. Each had proven their supremacy over hundreds of lesser species, establishing themselves as the apex predators of their respective regions. No force had ever challenged their combined authority, until today. Council members, Vextar began, his voice resonating through the crystal formations that lined the chamber walls. Our deep space probes have detected something unprecedented in Sector 7 Alpha. A new star system has emerged from behind the Void Nebula, previously hidden from our sensors. The holographic display in the center of the table flickered to life, showing a yellow star with several orbiting planets. The 3rd planet from the sun glowed blue and green, clearly harboring a complex biosphere. Standard galactic protocol required the Council to evaluate any new worlds for potential threats or resources. Warchief Brutok leaned forward, his bone plates scraping against each other with sounds like grinding stone. Another primitive world to be divided among us. What makes this system worthy of full Council attention? Vextar manipulated the holographic controls, zooming in on the blue-green planet. The initial scans are disturbing. This world registers as a Class 12 extinction event planet. According to our classification system, complex life should be impossible on such a world. Director Prime's mandibles clicked rapidly as the Hive Collective processed this information through thousands of interconnected minds. Class 12 indicates catastrophic environmental conditions. extreme weather patterns, geological instability, atmospheric toxicity, and predator saturation levels that would eliminate complex organisms within cycles. Ambassador Silk's form solidified slightly, her interest piqued by this anomaly. Yet the planetary scans show a thriving biosphere. Plant life covers most of the land masses, and the oceans teem with activity. Either our classification system is flawed, or something extraordinary has occurred on this world. Fleet Marshal Koreth activated his own scanning equipment, his sonar-based analysis cutting through the holographic data like a blade. The atmospheric composition is fascinating. 21% oxygen, which would cause combustive reactions in most species, nitrogen levels that would be toxic to crystalline life forms, trace gases that suggest active volcanic systems and industrial activity. Vextar nodded grimly. The truly impossible part is the dominant species. Our long-range biological scans detect approximately 8 billion intelligent beings living across every continent. They call themselves humans. The holographic display shifted to show the planet's inhabitants. Bipedal creatures with soft skin and minimal natural defenses moved in vast cities that sprawled across the landscape. They possessed no visible armor plating, no natural weapons, no apparent adaptations for surviving on a death world. Yet they had not only survived but thrived in numbers that suggested complete planetary dominance. War Chief Brutok threw back his massive head and roared with laughter, the sound echoing through the chamber like an avalanche. These soft creatures claim dominion over a Class 12 world? They appear weaker than the prey species we eliminated in our first conquests. What possible threat could such pathetic beings represent? Director Prime's analysis was more thorough, her collective consciousness processing millions of data points simultaneously. The contradiction is scientifically impossible. No species evolves to prominence on a death world without developing significant defensive adaptations. These humans show no such evolutionary pressure responses. Ambassador Silk drifted closer to the holographic display, studying the human settlements with predatory interest. Perhaps they are not the dominant species. They may be livestock maintained by the true rulers of this world. Fleet Marshal Koreth's environmental suit hummed as he conducted deeper scans of the planet's energy signatures. Negative. The technological emissions originate from human settlements. They have achieved faster-than-light capability and have established colonies on 12 worlds in their local cluster. Their expansion rate suggests either remarkable efficiency or desperate fleeing from their homeworld. The implications of this discovery sent ripples of concern through the council chamber. A species that could achieve interstellar travel while living on a Class 12 world represented something entirely outside their experience. Either the humans possessed hidden capabilities that their scans couldn't detect, or they had somehow cheated the fundamental laws of evolution and survival. Vexitar brought up the final piece of disturbing intelligence. 3 cycles ago, one of our automated survey probes entered their system. The humans detected it immediately and transmitted a response. The chamber's speakers crackled to life with a transmission in the human's primitive language, followed by a translation matrix interpretation. The voice that emerged was calm, professional, and completely unafraid. Unknown vessel, this is Admiral Sarah Chen of the Earth Defense Corps. Welcome to the Sol system. We extend greetings to your species and invite formal diplomatic contact. Please respond on this frequency if you wish to establish peaceful relations. The council members exchanged glances that ranged from confusion to outright incredulity. In their thousands of years of expansion, no lesser species had ever greeted their probes with invitations for diplomacy. Most civilizations either cowered in terror or launched desperate attacks that only hastened their own subjugation. War Chief Brutok's bone plates rattled with suppressed violence. They dare to offer us diplomacy? These mammals presume to treat apex predators as equals? Ambassador Silk's form rippled with what might have been amusement. Perhaps they are unaware of our capabilities. Ignorance could explain their boldness. Director Prime's analysis took a different direction. Or they possess capabilities we have not detected. A species does not casually invite unknown aliens to their homeworld without confidence in their ability to handle any situation. Fleet Marshal Koreth studied the transmission's technical specifications with growing unease. The signal penetrated our probe's stealth systems and encryption protocols as if they didn't exist. These humans possess sensor technology that exceeds our current capabilities. The chamber fell silent as each council member contemplated the implications. Throughout their rise to galactic dominance, they had never encountered a situation like this. Every species they had contacted had followed predictable patterns: fear, submission, desperate resistance, and eventual capitulation. These humans had responded with professional courtesy and an invitation to negotiate. Vextar called for formal discussion. Council members, how do we proceed? This species represents either a complete anomaly or a potential threat to our established order. War Chief Brutalk's response was immediate and predictable. We send a fleet to their homeworld and demonstrate why the galaxy bows to apex predators. If they possess hidden weapons, we will draw them out through combat. If they are merely lucky survivors, we will establish our dominance before they spread further. Director Prime's collective consciousness reached a different conclusion. We should study them first. Understanding how they survived on their death world might provide valuable biological data. Their rapid expansion suggests adaptive capabilities that could be useful if properly controlled. Ambassador Silk advocated for her species' preferred approach. Infiltration and observation. Insert our agents into their population centers and learn their true capabilities before revealing our presence. Knowledge is more valuable than immediate conquest. Fleet Marshal Koreth's deep ocean instincts suggested caution. Their casual response to our probe indicates they were expecting contact. They may have been preparing for this moment. We should assume they are more dangerous than they appear. The debate continued for hours as each species advocated for their traditional methods of dealing with new civilizations. The Maulers wanted immediate confrontation to test human military capabilities. The collective preferred systematic study and eventual integration. The Shadowmere sought covert infiltration and gradual control. The Void Hunters recommended careful observation from a safe distance. Vextar finally called for a vote, his crystalline form pulsing with decision-making algorithms that had guided Zephyrian expansion for millennia. Council members, we will compromise. A diplomatic fleet will make formal contact with these humans, but it will be prepared for any eventuality. We will test their capabilities while maintaining our options for conquest or alliance. The vote was unanimous, though each species planned to pursue their own additional agenda. The Council would send representatives to Earth, ostensibly for peaceful first contact. In reality, they would be conducting the most important assessment in galactic history. As the Council session ended and the representatives returned to their respective fleets, none of them suspected they were making the greatest mistake in their species' history. They were about to encounter a civilization that had been forged in the crucible of a world that made their own homeworlds look like peaceful gardens. On Earth, Admiral Sarah Chen reviewed the intercepted transmissions from the alien probe and smiled grimly. Humanity had been preparing for this moment since they first detected signals from galactic civilization decades ago. The aliens thought they were coming to evaluate a primitive species on a backwater world. They were about to discover what a real death world could produce. The underestimation. The diplomatic fleet that emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the Sol system was unlike anything humanity had ever witnessed. 5 massive vessels, each representing the pinnacle of their respective civilizations' technological achievement, hung in the void like predatory beasts studying their prey. The lead ship, a crystalline construct that seemed to bend light around its faceted hull, transmitted the official first contact message on all human frequencies. Primitive inhabitants of the third planet, High Commander Vextar's voice carried the casual arrogance of a species that had never been challenged. We are the Council of Apex Predators, rulers of this galaxy. You will prepare a delegation to meet aboard our vessels and discuss the terms of your integration into galactic civilization. On Earth, Admiral Sarah Chen stood in the command center of Luna Base, humanity's primary military installation hidden within the moon's surface. Around her, dozens of technicians monitored the alien fleet's movements, while defensive systems that had been decades in development came online throughout the solar system. The humans had been preparing for this moment since their first detection of galactic civilizations, and every contingency had been planned for. Admiral, reported Lieutenant Commander Marcus Torres, his voice steady despite the magnitude of the situation. The alien fleet maintains position at the system's edge. 5 vessels, each approximately 3 kilometers in length. Energy signatures suggest weapon systems far beyond our current technology. Chen nodded calmly, her weathered face showing no sign of the tension that filled the command center. She had earned her position through 30 years of service in Earth's most dangerous regions, from Arctic survival training to deep ocean combat operations. Like most high-ranking military officers, she had been selected not just for her tactical brilliance but for her ability to remain functional under impossible pressure. Dr. Rodriguez, Chen addressed the woman standing beside her tactical display. Are you ready for the most important diplomatic mission in human history? Dr. Elena Rodriguez adjusted her environmental suit and checked her translation devices one final time. As Earth's leading xenobiologist and cultural anthropologist, she had spent decades studying intercepted alien communications and preparing for first contact. Her small frame and gentle demeanor made her appear harmless to most observers, which had always been her greatest advantage in dangerous situations. Admiral, I've reviewed every piece of intelligence we have on these species. They operate under the assumption that might makes right, and they expect immediate submission from any civilization they encounter. They're going to be very surprised when we don't follow their expectations. The human delegation launched from Luna Base in a modest transport vessel that looked primitive compared to the alien fleet. This was entirely intentional. Earth's military doctrine had always emphasized the advantage of being underestimated, and first contact would be no exception. The transport approached the crystalline command ship, its hull barely visible against the backdrop of space. Inside the alien vessel, the council members gathered in a reception chamber designed to intimidate lesser species. The room's dimensions were calculated to make visitors feel small and vulnerable, while the lighting cast dramatic shadows that emphasized the predatory nature of their hosts. Each representative had chosen their most intimidating forms for this first meeting. War Chief Brutok's bone plates had been polished to mirror brightness, his natural armor gleaming like weapon-grade steel. At his full height of 12 feet, he towered over the chamber like a living siege engine. Ambassador Silk had solidified her form just enough to suggest barely contained lethality, her shape shifting between humanoid and something far more dangerous. Director Prime's insectoid features clicked and chittered with the voices of thousands, while Fleet Marshal Koreth's environmental suit hummed with the power systems needed to maintain his high-pressure atmosphere. High Commander Vextar had arranged his crystalline form to refract the chamber's light into patterns that induced vertigo in most organic beings. The display was designed to establish dominance before a single word was spoken. In their thousands of years of expansion, this psychological warfare had never failed to reduce new species to stammering submission. The human delegation entered the chamber with casual confidence that immediately set the aliens on edge. Admiral Chen moved with the fluid grace of someone completely comfortable in hostile environments, her eyes quickly cataloging every detail of the chamber's layout and her hosts' positions. Dr. Rodriguez followed slightly behind, her scientific instruments discreetly recording everything for later analysis. "Greetings," Dr. Rodriguez said in perfectly pronounced Galactic Standard, her voice carrying the warm professionalism of a university professor addressing new students. "I am Dr. Elena Rodriguez, and this is Admiral Sarah Chen. We represent the United Earth government and welcome this opportunity for peaceful contact between our civilizations." The casual familiarity with galactic language protocols caught the council members off guard. Most primitive species required weeks of communication exchanges before basic translation was possible. These humans had apparently been preparing for contact far longer than their technological level suggested. High Commander Vextar recovered first, his crystalline form pulsing with authority patterns designed to compel obedience. "Humans of Earth, you stand before the rulers of galactic civilization. We have come to assess your species for integration into our territories. You will submit to our evaluation and abide by our judgment." Admiral Chen stepped forward slightly, her movement casual but clearly establishing herself as the military authority present. "Commander Vextar, we appreciate your interest in establishing relations. However, humanity operates under the principle of mutual respect between civilizations. We're here to discuss partnership, not submission." War Chief Brutok's bone plates rattled with barely contained violence. In his entire military career, no lesser species had ever refused a direct command from the Council. His instinctive response was to demonstrate why resistance was futile through immediate physical dominance. "Human Admiral," he rumbled, his voice like grinding stone, "you misunderstand your position. We are apex predators. You are prey species. The strong rule the weak throughout the galaxy. This is natural law." Dr. Rodriguez consulted her tablet with academic interest, as if the 12-foot armored giant before her was simply another research subject. "Chief Brutok, that's a fascinating evolutionary perspective. Our studies suggest that true apex predators are defined not by their ability to dominate others, but by their ability to adapt and survive in impossible conditions. Would you mind if I asked about your homeworld's environmental conditions?" The question seemed innocent enough, but it led the conversation into territory that would fundamentally alter the Council's understanding of their place in the galaxy. As each species described their homeworld's challenges, a disturbing pattern emerged. The Zephyrians had evolved on a world of living crystal formations where survival required hardness and flexibility. The Maulers came from a high-gravity planet where physical strength determined survival. The Shadowmere originated in a world of eternal darkness where stealth was essential. The Collective had emerged from a planet where cooperation was necessary to survive massive predator swarms. The Void Hunters had developed in crushing ocean depths that demanded perfect adaptation to pressure. Each world had presented specific challenges that their species had overcome through evolutionary specialization. They had become apex predators by mastering their particular environmental niche and then applying those advantages to conquest of other worlds. Impressive adaptations, Dr. Rodriguez noted with genuine scientific appreciation. Your species have each mastered remarkable survival strategies. I'm curious how you would handle the environmental conditions on Earth. Admiral Chen activated a holographic display showing Earth's current environmental conditions. What the aliens saw challenged everything they understood about habitable worlds. The planet's surface showed temperature variations that ranged from life-threatening cold to lethal heat, often within the same continental landmass. Weather patterns included electrical storms that could vaporize spacecraft and wind systems that achieved velocities exceeding most species' atmospheric flight capabilities. The atmospheric pressure varies significantly with altitude. Dr. Rodriguez continued her presentation with academic precision. Our mountain ranges reach heights where most galactic species would lose consciousness from oxygen deprivation. Our ocean depths exceed pressures that would crush standard vessels. The seismic activity includes volcanic systems that regularly release more energy than most civilizations use in a year. Fleet Marshal Koreth studied the data with growing unease. His species had evolved to handle crushing pressure, but the variations in Earth's environment exceeded anything in his experience. These conditions would kill most apex predators within hours. How do your people survive such extremes? Admiral Chen smiled with the confidence of someone who had personally survived in every environment displayed on the hologram. We adapt. Earth taught us that survival isn't about finding a comfortable niche and defending it. Survival means being able to thrive anywhere, under any conditions. Director Prime's collective consciousness processed the implications through thousands of interconnected minds. Your species evolved under constant environmental pressure. Every generation faced different survival challenges. This should have produced extreme specialization, not adaptability. That's where Earth is unique, Dr. Rodriguez explained. Our planet doesn't allow specialization. Species that become too adapted to specific conditions go extinct when those conditions change. Earth rewards flexibility, creativity, and the ability to turn any environment into an advantage. To demonstrate their point, the humans invited the council members to observe some of humanity's routine activities. The holographic display showed human settlements in Antarctica, where people lived and worked in temperatures that would flash freeze Mauler blood. Deep-sea research stations operated at pressures that would compress Zephyrian crystal forms into powder. Mountain climbers scaled peaks where the atmosphere was too thin for most species to remain conscious. These appear to be extreme survival situations, Ambassador Silk observed, her form rippling with confusion. Why do your people voluntarily expose themselves to such dangers? Admiral Chen's answer revealed the fundamental difference between humanity and the galactic apex predators. Because those aren't extreme situations for us. That's just Earth. We don't climb mountains or explore deep oceans as survival challenges. We do it because they're there, and understanding our environment makes us stronger. The demonstration continued with recordings of human activities that defied the Council's understanding of safe behavior. Children played in environments that would kill adult apex predators. Scientists conducted research in active volcanic zones. Athletes competed in conditions that most species would consider lethal combat zones. War Chief Brutok watched footage of human soldiers training in Arctic conditions, their movements maintaining combat effectiveness despite temperatures that would incapacitate his warriors. Your military forces operate in environments where our equipment would fail. This explains how you achieved interstellar travel so rapidly. Actually, Dr. Rodriguez corrected gently, those aren't our military specialists. That's basic training for our civilian emergency responders. Our actual military trains in conditions we consider challenging. The aliens requested to see examples of challenging human military training. What they witnessed in the next series of recordings fundamentally altered their perception of the species they had come to subjugate. Human military personnel operated in environments that combined multiple lethal factors simultaneously. They functioned effectively in Arctic conditions while under enemy fire. They conducted amphibious operations in waters that would drown most galactic species while coordinating complex tactical maneuvers. They parachuted into active combat zones through weather conditions that would ground alien aircraft. This is impossible. Fleet Marshal Koreth's environmental suit system struggled to process the data. No species can maintain combat effectiveness under such conditions. Your recordings must be altered or staged. Admiral Chen's response was to invite the aliens to witness a live demonstration. Commander, we're currently conducting routine training exercises in the Arctic Ocean. You're welcome to observe if you doubt our capabilities. The council members found themselves transported to Earth's Arctic region, where human naval forces were conducting cold weather operations. The temperature was -40°C, with winds exceeding hurricane force and visibility limited to a few meters, conditions that would kill most galactic species within minutes. The humans moved through this environment with casual efficiency, their equipment functioning perfectly while their personnel showed no signs of environmental stress. They conducted complex military maneuvers in conditions that the aliens could barely survive inside their protective suits. How? High Commander Vextar's crystalline form struggled to maintain cohesion in the extreme cold. How do you function in such conditions? Admiral Chen's answer would haunt the council members for years to come. Commander, this isn't extreme for us. This is a pleasant day for Arctic operations. Earth taught us that if you can survive anywhere, you can fight anywhere. And if you can fight anywhere, you can win anywhere. The aliens' return to their ships was conducted in stunned silence. They had come to evaluate a primitive species for conquest or integration. Instead, they had discovered a civilization that treated their most lethal environments as routine training grounds. As the council fleet prepared to depart for emergency consultations, each member grappled with a terrifying realization. They weren't dealing with prey species that had somehow achieved spaceflight. They were facing predators who had been forged by a world that made their own homeworlds look like paradise. On Earth, Dr. Rodriguez filed her initial contact report with characteristic scientific precision. The galactic apex predators appear to be specialists who achieve dominance through environmental adaptation to specific niches. They have no experience with true generalist survival evolution. Recommend continued diplomatic contact, but maintain full defensive readiness. Admiral Chen's report was more succinct. They came here thinking they were the galaxy's deadliest predators. They just learned what real apex predators look like. Prepare for their response. Apex no more. The emergency session of the Council of Apex Predators convened in the deepest chambers of Nexus Station, far from the prying sensors of lesser species. The crystalline walls pulsed with urgent communications as representatives from across the galaxy demanded explanations for the disturbing reports emerging from the Sol system. For the first time in their recorded history, the Council faced a crisis that threatened their fundamental understanding of galactic hierarchy. High Commander Vextar realized that military action would only accelerate the collapse of apex predator authority. Each aggressive move would drive more species toward human protection, while direct confrontation with humans would likely result in devastating losses that would expose apex predator vulnerability to the entire galaxy. Council members, Vextar announced with the weight of epochal change in his crystalline voice, we face an unprecedented situation. The humans have not conquered us through superior firepower or advanced technology. They have made us irrelevant through superior adaptation. The final test of apex predator authority came when the Outer Rim Coalition, a group of species that had suffered under council rule for centuries, formally requested human intervention in their territorial disputes. The coalition offered the humans access to strategic resources and trade routes in exchange for protection from apex predator retaliation. Admiral Sarah Chen received the coalition's request aboard the Earth flagship Endeavour, humanity's most advanced vessel designed for long-range diplomatic operations. The ship represented human engineering philosophy in its elegant simplicity, robust systems that could function in any environment, modular design that allowed rapid adaptation to new situations, and crew quarters that could accommodate multiple species in comfort. Admiral, reported Commander Lisa Park, Chen's tactical officer and a veteran of Earth's most challenging survival training programs. The Coalition fleet has arrived at the rendezvous coordinates. 47 species represented by over 300 vessels. They're requesting immediate protection from an approaching apex predator task force. Chen studied the tactical display showing the Coalition fleet's position relative to the incoming Council forces. War Chief Brutok had assembled a massive armada designed to demonstrate apex predator supremacy through overwhelming force. Nearly 2,000 vessels from all 5 Council species converged on the neutral meeting point, their combined firepower capable of sterilizing entire star systems. Dr. Rodriguez, Chen addressed the xenobiologist who had become humanity's primary diplomatic liaison. Are you ready for the most important negotiation in galactic history? Dr. Elena Rodriguez checked her translation devices and cultural analysis programs one final time. Her diplomatic success with the first council contact had established her as Earth's leading expert on apex predator psychology. Today's mission would determine whether the galaxy moved toward cooperation or erupted into the largest war in its recorded history. Admiral, the Council species are operating from desperation now. They know their traditional authority is collapsing, and they're making one final attempt to re-establish dominance through force. We need to demonstrate that humans can protect our allies while offering the Council a path to relevance in the new galactic order. The human fleet that took position between the coalition vessels and the approaching Council armada was deliberately small. 12 ships against 2,000 represented odds that should have been suicidal. Yet the humans had learned that true strength came not from superior numbers, but from superior adaptation to impossible situations. War Chief Brutok opened communications from his flagship, his voice carrying the accumulated fury of a species watching their galactic supremacy crumble. Humans of Earth, you have interfered with Council authority for the final time. Withdraw immediately or face the combined might of apex predator civilization. Admiral Chen's response carried the calm professionalism that had become humanity's signature in galactic relations. War Chief Brutok, we're here to ensure peaceful resolution of territorial disputes. The coalition species have requested our assistance in establishing fair negotiations. We invite Council participation in these discussions. There will be no negotiations, Brutok roared, his massive form filling the communication screen. There will be demonstration of why apex predators rule this galaxy. All vessels, attack formation. Show these mammals what happens when prey species challenge their natural superiors. The battle that followed would be studied in military academies across the galaxy for generations. The Council armada attacked with coordinated precision, their combined firepower creating a storm of destruction that should have obliterated the small human fleet within minutes. Instead, the humans simply weren't where the attacks expected them to be. Admiral Chen had deployed her fleet using three-dimensional tactics that treated space itself as terrain to be exploited. Human vessels used gravitational fields, asteroid debris, and even the enemy's own formations as cover and weapons. Ships appeared from impossible angles, struck with surgical precision, and vanished into the void before counterattacks could target them. Commander Park coordinated the defensive operations with the calm efficiency of someone who had trained for combat in Earth's most hostile environments. Admiral, enemy formation Alpha is moving to flank our position. Recommend using the debris field from their own weapons fire as concealment for counterattack. The human vessels flowed through the battle like water, adapting to each new threat with flexibility that left the apex predators struggling to predict their movements. Where Council forces expected linear tactics and predictable formations, they encountered humans who treated every moment of combat as an opportunity for creative problem-solving. The turning point came when War Chief Brutok himself led a direct assault on Admiral Chen's flagship. His personal vessel, a massive dreadnought designed to inspire terror through sheer size and firepower, bore down on the Endeavor with weapons charged for point-blank annihilation. Chief Brutok, Admiral Chen transmitted as the alien warship closed to ramming distance. I offer you one final opportunity to stand down. Your vessel is badly damaged, and your crew needs medical attention. This conflict serves no one's interests. Brutok's response was to fire every weapon at his disposal in a desperate attempt to prove apex predator supremacy through raw violence. The energy discharge was massive enough to vaporize a small moon, directed at a human vessel that appeared helpless before such overwhelming force. The Endeavor absorbed the entire attack through shield systems that had been designed by engineers who understood that survival meant being prepared for anything. The energy that should have destroyed the human flagship was redirected through crystalline matrices inspired by Zephyrian technology, dispersed through dimensional channels borrowed from Void Hunter principles, and finally dissipated through adaptive systems that turned the attack's own power against itself. Impressive firepower, Chief, Admiral Chen acknowledged with genuine respect. However, Earth taught us that the strongest attacks often come from desperate opponents. Dr. Rodriguez, please transmit our medical assistance offer to the damaged Council vessels. The sight of human ships moving to provide aid to defeated enemies rather than finishing them off sent shockwaves through both fleets. Throughout galactic history, military victory had always meant subjugation or elimination of the defeated. The humans were offering medical assistance to beings who had just tried to annihilate them. Dr. Rodriguez's voice filled the communication channels with the same warm professionalism she had displayed during first contact. All vessels, this is Dr. Elena Rodriguez of the Human Diplomatic Corps. We have medical teams standing by to assist with casualty treatment and damage control. Earth's policy is that today's enemies can become tomorrow's allies. War Chief Brutok found himself facing a choice that challenged everything his species believed about strength and victory. His flagship was crippled, his fleet was defeated, and his authority as an apex predator had been shattered before the entire galaxy. According to Mauler tradition, he should fight to the death rather than accept help from those who had beaten him. Instead, he found himself asking a question that would echo through galactic civilization for centuries to come. Why do you offer aid to those who sought your destruction? Admiral Chen's answer revealed the fundamental difference between humans and the species that had ruled through fear and domination. Because Earth taught us that true strength isn't measured by your ability to destroy your enemies. True strength is measured by your ability to turn enemies into allies. The aftermath of the battle transformed galactic civilization more thoroughly than any conquest in recorded history. The Council of Apex Predators formally dissolved within days as member species requested admission to the new Galactic Cooperative Alliance established by humanity and their coalition partners. War Chief Brutok became one of the Alliance's most effective peacekeepers, his warrior instincts channeled into protecting weaker species rather than conquering them. High Commander Vextar's crystalline networks evolved into communication systems that connected every Alliance world in a web of mutual cooperation. Director Prime's collective consciousness merged with voluntary cooperative networks that preserved individual identity while achieving unprecedented coordination. Ambassador Silk's infiltration expertise transformed into intelligence gathering that prevented conflicts before they could escalate into wars. Fleet Marshal Koreth's dimensional manipulation capabilities enabled rapid response to crises across the galaxy's vast distances. The former apex predators discovered that cooperation produced results far superior to domination. Their specialized evolutionary advantages, when shared freely rather than used for conquest, created synergies that benefited every species in the Alliance. Dr. Elena Rodriguez addressed the first Galactic Cooperative Assembly from the same chamber where the Council of Apex Predators had once planned humanity's subjugation. Her words carried the wisdom of a species that had learned to thrive in impossible conditions through adaptation and mutual support. Fellow beings of the galaxy, she began, her voice reaching billions of listeners across thousands of worlds. Humanity learned long ago that survival isn't about being the strongest predator. Survival is about being adaptable enough to turn any challenge into an opportunity for growth. The applause that followed came from species that had spent centuries living in fear of apex predator domination. Now they worked together as equals, each contributing their unique strengths to a galactic civilization built on cooperation rather than conquest. Admiral Sarah Chen filed her final report on the apex predator crisis with characteristic human precision. Mission accomplished. Former galactic rulers have been successfully integrated into cooperative alliance structure. No species eliminated or subjugated. Galactic peace achieved through demonstration of superior adaptive capabilities rather than superior firepower. On Earth, the planet that had forged humanity in the crucible of constant environmental challenges, children played in the same deadly conditions that had created the galaxy's new protectors. They learned, as every human generation had learned, that the strongest beings were not those who could dominate others, but those who could adapt to anything the universe could throw at them. The age of apex predators was over. The age of adaptive survivors had begun, and the galaxy would never be the same. Commander Vextar's crystalline form flickered with stress patterns that betrayed his species' legendary composure. The data from Earth had been analyzed by their finest scientists, and every conclusion challenged the natural order that had governed galactic civilization for millennia. Around the obsidian table, his fellow council members struggled to process what they had witnessed. Council members, Vextar began, his voice resonating with uncertainty that had never before tainted Zephyrian communications. Our preliminary assessment of the human species has yielded results that require immediate action. These beings represent a paradigm shift in our understanding of apex predator evolution. War Chief Brutok's bone plates scraped against his reinforced chair as he shifted with barely contained agitation. His warriors had begun requesting transfers away from sectors near human space after viewing the Earth contact recordings. The sight of soft-skinned mammals operating effectively in conditions that would incapacitate Mauler shock troops had shaken their confidence in their own supremacy. The humans mock everything we represent, Brutok growled, his massive fists clenching with frustration. They show no fear of environments that would kill our strongest warriors. They treat lethal conditions as recreational activities. Our psychological warfare has no effect on beings who voluntarily expose themselves to dangers we use as execution methods. Director Prime's mandibles clicked rapidly as the Hive Collective processed millions of data points through their shared consciousness. The mathematical models that had predicted easy victory over every species they had encountered now generated error messages when applied to human capabilities. The statistical analysis is unprecedented, Director Prime reported in her collective voice. Human survival adaptations exceed the parameters of our predictive models. They demonstrate capabilities that should be evolutionarily impossible. Our standard conquest protocols assume species with environmental specializations. These humans appear to have specialized in not specializing. Ambassador Silk's form rippled with confusion as she struggled to comprehend beings who couldn't be intimidated by stealth and subterfuge. Her species had built their empire on fear of the unknown, but the humans seemed to actively seek out unknown dangers for personal growth and entertainment. Our infiltration specialists report complete failure in psychological manipulation attempts, Silk admitted, her voice carrying embarrassment that was foreign to Shadowmere nature. Human mental resilience exceeds our theoretical maximums. They appear to find stress and uncertainty stimulating rather than paralyzing. Standard fear-based control mechanisms are ineffective. Fleet Marshal Koreth's environmental suit hummed with the strain of processing data that challenged his species' understanding of space-based survival. The Void Hunters had always believed that mastery of hostile environments guaranteed military superiority. The humans had demonstrated mastery of environments that exceeded anything the Void Hunters had imagined possible. Their space-based operations are equally disturbing, Koreth reported through his suit's communication systems. Human vessels operate in gravitational fields that would tear our ships apart. Their personnel conduct extravehicular activities and radiation levels that would be lethal to our crews. They treat the vacuum of space as merely another working environment. The council chamber fell silent as each member contemplated the implications of their reports. Throughout their expansion across the galaxy, they had encountered thousands of species, each following predictable patterns of evolutionary development. Environmental pressures produced specialized adaptations that could be understood, predicted, and ultimately exploited. The humans represented something entirely outside their experience. Vextar activated the chamber's communication array, displaying the latest intelligence reports from across galactic space. The information painted a picture that grew more alarming with each update. Human expansion has accelerated beyond all projections, he announced as star charts filled the holographic display. In the 3 cycles since first contact, they have established diplomatic relations with 47 species previously under our protection. These civilizations are requesting human assistance in dealing with what they now perceive as apex predator oppression. The implications struck each council member like physical blows. The galactic order they had maintained for centuries was crumbling as lesser species discovered that alternatives to apex predator domination existed. Worlds that had paid tribute for generations were suddenly questioning why they needed protection from beings who couldn't survive in conditions that humans considered recreational. War Chief Brutok's response was predictably direct. We mobilize every fleet in our territories and crush this human expansion before it spreads further. Strength must be met with greater strength. We demonstrate to the galaxy why apex predators rule through superior firepower. Director Prime's collective consciousness reached a different conclusion through rapid analysis of tactical possibilities. Combat operations against humans would be problematic. Their environmental adaptability suggests military capabilities beyond our current assessment. Recommend enhanced intelligence gathering before committing military assets. Ambassador Silk advocated for her species' traditional approach. Covert elimination of human leadership could destabilize their expansion without direct confrontation. A species cannot maintain interstellar operations without centralized command structures. Fleet Marshal Koreth's deep ocean instincts suggested a more cautious approach. Intelligence reports indicate humans operate through distributed command networks rather than centralized hierarchies. Individual elimination would not significantly impact their operations. We must assume they have prepared for our traditional tactics. The debate was interrupted by urgent communications from across the galaxy. Reports flooded in of human vessels appearing in systems where apex predator forces were conducting routine operations. The humans weren't attacking or challenging territorial claims. Instead, They were offering alternative solutions to conflicts that had persisted for centuries. In the Rigel sector, where Zephyrian crystal formations had been expanding across inhabited worlds, human engineers provided terraforming techniques that allowed both species to coexist without territorial displacement. The Crystalline Empire's standard conquest protocols became unnecessary when voluntary cooperation produced superior results. Mauler warrior clans discovered that human military advisors could improve their combat effectiveness without requiring submission to Bruthan authority. Combat training that emphasized adaptability and tactical flexibility proved more effective than traditional Mauler strength-based doctrine. Shadowmere infiltration operations found themselves countered by human intelligence networks that operated with transparency rather than secrecy. Species that had lived in fear of unseen enemies suddenly found themselves protected by beings who shared information freely and operated with open communication protocols. The Hive Collective's expansion through forced integration met resistance from human-supported independence movements that valued individual consciousness while maintaining cooperative social structures. The mathematical certainty of collective assimilation crumbled when faced with humans who could achieve coordination without sacrificing personal identity. Void Hunter dimensional manipulation tactics became obsolete when humans demonstrated superior three-dimensional space combat techniques that turned any environment into a strategic advantage. Within 6 months of first contact, the galactic balance of power had shifted fundamentally. Species that had paid tribute for generations discovered they no longer needed protection from apex predators when humans offered alliance based on mutual benefit rather than submission.